Okay, we have discussed the aggregate demand or consumption, your aggregate expenditure. These four components belongs to the aggregate demand or aggregate expenditure. Now, since I have told you that we are going to study simple or basic Keynesian model, simple or basic Keynesian model. Okay, so there are certain assumptions that we have to follow. Okay, there are certain assumptions that we have to follow for this building this basic or simple Keynesian model. First assumption is that it is a closed economy. Okay, we assume that it is a closed economy. Okay, it is a closed economy. All right, and as and when I say that it is a closed economy, that means there is no international relations with other countries. We are not importing or exporting. All right. So if we are not importing and exporting, then from this equation, there's no need to take this export minus imports. We will cancel this export minus imports, and what you will get? You will get this equation. Aggregate demand is equals to consumption expenditure, investment expenditure, and government expenditure. And further we assume that two sectors are there. We assume two sectors are there. That is the household sector and business sector. Okay, and we all know that the household sector incurs consumption expenditure and the business sector incurs investment expenditure. So since we are only assuming that there are only two sectors under the simple basic Keynesian model, then this government expenditure also we have to cancel. Then ultimately, what is the aggregate demand on which we have to work is, it is C plus I. That is your consumption expenditure plus investment expenditure, because in your simple Keynesian model, we assume that it is the closed economy. That is why we have to cancel the net exports. Okay, and then we assume that there are only two sectors, household and business sector. That is why we have to cancel this government spending. Okay, so whatever we discuss, it will be based upon this equation. That is your C plus I. But remember one thing, if in your exams it is asked that what are the components of aggregate demand, then you have to write all these four components. Okay, it is on the basis of the simple basic Keynesian model that we assume these things, and ultimately we land upon this equation C plus I. But actually there are four components of aggregate demand. So whenever a question is asked, explain or state the components of aggregate demand, then we have to write all these four things. Okay, then we assume that it is the short run. I have already told you it is the short run. Okay, and since it is the short run, okay, and that is why Keynes said that everything depends, the performance of the economy depends upon the aggregate demand. So he said that, so these are the assumptions that I am doing of your basic Keynesian model. Okay, you can say that these are the assumptions of simple Keynesian model. Okay, so since it is the short run, then your economic performance means that is your national income or employment or output. Okay, national income, employment, output depends upon desired aggregate demand. Okay, and since it is the short run, thus your aggregate supply That is your total supply of goods and services, or total amount of goods and services that have been produced in the economy in that year. Aggregate supply is constant because it is a short run, and in the short run we cannot change the level of supply. We cannot supply more. Whatever stock is there available, that has to be sold. Okay, and due to this, prices are fixed. Because the aggregate supply is constant, everything has been produced, okay, everything is in the market, the price tags have been set, so prices will remain fixed of this already produced output. So these are the basic assumptions. There are other assumptions also that I will add on as we move forward to the in this chapter, because we have to build a simple model, and for building a simple model we have to assume certain things. Till now we have assumed 6 things. Write it down somewhere, that 6 things we have assumed. There are around more things we have to assume as we move forward towards the building of the whole macroeconomic equilibrium.